Welcome back to Tools and Track. Sorry for springing a montage on you at the very beginning of an episode, but as you can remember, the last time we finished off this Locost, it was just half done and I was losing the will to live because of filleting. Anyway, it's done now. So what we're going to do in this episode is quite clear: a start and a finish. Well, I've got a really bad habit of making these mighty old lists that go on for weeks and weeks and weeks and never really get finished. So in this episode, I'm going to finish off the following. The rear tub support. Now, we've chopped this in half, and whilst we're going through the episode, I dare say we're going to actually try and join it back together again on a wee bit of downtime during a montage. But whilst we have that bent top bar that holds the top of the tub in place, we don't have anything below it. Now, I've got some ideas brewing, so we'll go into that in a bit more detail and get what might well be the last bit of welding on the chassis finalised. Finished the 6061 flooring. If you remember, we did a big chunk of it all, but there are bits that I've still not got around to. We'll chuck that in a montage and we'll get it put to bed. Also, while we're on the subject of aluminium, the sides, as in the outside parts of the car. Now, we've chopped off the side of the clamshell which did have glass fibre sides, and I've kind of just left that and went, yeah, we'll deal with it some other time. Well, now it's some other time. So I'm going to put a bit of thought into how we deal with the sides. It's probably going to be a plan, and we'll cover it in another episode, but the thought has to start now because I've got a really bad habit of not doing that, and then weeks down the line you wonder why there's no episodes coming out for Locost because I don't know what I'm doing. Other than that, I don't think there's any other things to address, so let's get started on this back end. How useful is this? One freshly cut chassis for me to do a cutaway diagram of what I'm thinking about doing for the back end. As you can see, we've got our top bar, that's magic, doing what it should do and holding this all together. However, there's going to be problems. Bear in mind, this is the back of the car, so if wind starts to come in here, it's going to give it the big flappy wappy. Now that's not ideal. However, the book plans and many chassis plans that I've seen have another bar that will come out from here and cover in the whole bottom of this back in, spars, all of that jazz. Now, I'm not a light person, I get it, but I'd like my car to be. That seems excessive when I've got a full clamshell that should support itself and not really need that much of all the steel. Now you can trace this frame thing back to the early inception of Locosts. You would skin all of the back of this and cover in the sides with aluminium. This book plan is on the basis that you would do the same, and most book plans kind of follow that route. They'll give you the schematics to do the fold, but we don't need to do the fold because we've got the glass fibre. So I am going to do a more, what's the word? Minge bag solution. So what are my constraints for this additional brace frame thing that I'm coming up with? Well, the first and foremost is going to be the fuel filler cap. Whatever framing I put in, I'd rather didn't fill with that. I've got a great big hole and a nice looking filler cap and the route to a tank, which is really obvious. So let's not bugger about and lose that. I'm going to keep the frame and all of this in place and avoid it with any additional structure I do. At the bottom here, you've got this bottom triangulation point, and by all intents and purposes, it's now just going to float in midair and do nothing if I don't do anything with it. Now, now I could be really ruthless here and just take this out completely, restructure all of the strength and make this a really lightweight back end. But that really puts a lot more thought into adding the strength that you've taken out, and I can't be arsed with that. So you can see where I'm going with this. We have a fuel tank cradle that juts out here, and well, that's not really anything we can change. However, why don't we just use this, make another little frame that will come out, tab onto the bottom of that to add strength, and that's it. As long as we stop this wobbling around, how much more do we really need here? I reckon if we pull from here out, catch the bottom of this, maybe run a crossbar across the top, that'll do, won't it? Just agree with me. Yeah, I will. Aye. The added benefit of putting a cross brace here is we also have, well, what will be number plate lighting and many other things that are probably going to sit in the middle of the car. This will give us a nice chassis route to put loom up without, being overkill. Last of all, the reason why I'm wanting to rationalise the metal here, this is becoming less and less negotiable the more glass fibre I put in it. I reckon if we put a full tub around here that catches this back end, I'm going to lose the jiggle that lets me put it on the car. So I quite like to have, gap here that allows me to carve it all into place without anything cracking. There's always an evolution of how I do things, as you probably gathered, and here is version 4, 5, I don't know. We're just a bit of glass fibre in this section here. Now what I've done is cardboard to the back, and we're going to glass fibre into this groove that we've cut here. Now I've also put duct tape over the cardboard, and that's hopefully going to stop the glass fibre sticking to the cardboard and give it a maximum depth in that it's going to fall into. As you'll see, I've wrapped right around here, so we'll get this entire crescent part done, and we might get a wee tuck underneath, but to be honest, we might have to just suck it and see, and maybe not go underneath. Gravity is a pain in the arse. We'll glass this, see how it sits, let it dry for a good wee while, and then what I think might be the way to go is take the cardboard off and glass fibre the back so that we've got a sandwich on it and a proper good bond, because when this comes off, it's going to bloody wobble. While this glass fibre's doing the glass fibre thing, I've got the measuring tape out and made some thoroughly technical drawings, as usual. Now, what we've got here is a profile of the side of the car. That's the very front where the suspension pickups are, and the back here is where the seat goes. Now, as you can see, I've not measured accurately, but I've measured out enough to see how much aluminium I'm going to need. Now, let's get into this. I am sheeting the side of this in aluminium. We're not doing glass fibre. To do glass fibre and get it perfectly straight and flush and looking good, it's going to be a mission. Whereas with aluminium, you can just fold it, form it, bang it on and rivet it, and we're done. Also, it's going to be basic aluminium, not the fancy stuff, because it's going to have 90 degrees to look over the top and the bottom. So, I'm going to need a full length of 2.5 metres, more or less. Slightly less than that, but it comes in 2.5 metre lengths. Now, with regards to how wide it needs to be, 2.5 metre length of aluminium comes in 1.25 metre heights. So, I've put here 600 millimetres. The reason for that is, here is only 360, but the way this is going to work, the front tapers in, but it doesn't taper in enough for me to hug the sides. Let me show you. Because this front end tapers in the way, but also tapers down the way, I'm going to actually have to have a flat side that has a lip that comes in. The further forward it gets, the bigger this lip's going to have to be. So my excess for this is 600 mil. Now that excess is going to go basically down like this and then fold under. So what this means to me is I will get 2 of these out of one big sheet, and probably a fair amount of excess to make an absolute cod's arse of it as well. Unfortunately, I won't get 3 out of it, I don't think. But we can template this out, we can get to that. Now you might be wondering, what about this big chunk up the back? That's where the magic of hiding things with glass fibre comes in. I am going to do this in a separate section. Now before you say, won't that look absolutely rank? No, because this big section will be completely hidden with a plastic wheel arch. Not bad, eh? So that means that most of the stuff that you're going to see will be one seamless section. It just means that the excess height that I need to chuck away doing the seatbelt anchory bits, that's just hidden. That means it's time to go onto the computer and spend more money on raw materials. Yes, I know it's not on the list, but here's a wee bonus, or rather a catch-up, because I've completely forgot to do this months ago, and because of the convoluted and pointless nature of it, I've just patched it completely. And that is the support braces for these outer suspension mounts, namely the upper fronts. Because of the way this particular chassis is designed, and we touched on this weeks ago, there's not a great deal of contact for the top left or top front wishbone mounts on the fronts. So I kind of half put in a bit of bracing and then thought, oh, boxing that in is going to be a chore. So we know it's braced, but it's just going to be a rust trap and a dirt trap if I don't at least tidy it up and make it look like it's one solid thing. And not to forget, the more I put metal into this, the tougher it's going to be. Yes, I know I had grand plans and I was making wild schemes, but you can't deny, keep it simple. A nice wee bit of triangulation just up to this corner, keeps it in line with everything that it needs to tuck into. Here's the fuel filler. Yeah, these are perfect. What it doesn't do, however, is catch the bottom end. So last thing to do is bring the clamshell back in, finish this episode by finishing the bottom brace. And it's at this point I realise I don't have anyone to help me. Hey bugger.
Hey! Look at that.
Better late than never.
Outstanding.
See? I told you I wasn't taking the shortcut. That is why I made those removable. Not just because I will inevitably end up battering my leg on them every time I walk by, but because this won't go on. I had the feeling that would be the case, hence the obviously removable nature of it. But yeah, I'll need to take those back off, put the clamshell on and then bolt them up. So next step will be take them off. Probably going to spot weld in these wee bolts just so that they are now studs, and paint up the brackets. So.
Oh, I thought for a minute there you were talking to yourself, but then I remembered where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that more or less completes the saga of the back end. Now, granted, I'll have to still deal with this extension we've made in it, but fundamentally, when it comes time to bolt on whatever I eventually make out of this clamshell, it's going to go on, and it's going to go on proper. So that's good. We've got our detachable bottom pins, we've got a frame for the top. Next up, we need to look at the sides, but that's definitely for another episode. I'll get on the computer, we'll get some aluminium ordered, and we'll get onto this design next week. But in the meantime, Patreon's on the side of the screen. Massive thanks for your support. If you don't know what it's about, patreon.com/toolsandtrack, and help this build become built. If that's not for you, cool. Please do like and subscribe and do the share thing. Definitely do the share thing actually, because it's the only way anyone figures out what I'm doing here, and it saves me shouting into an empty room. That'd be awesome as well if you could. And until next week, guys, try safe.
Good day to spend the whole day cleaning the car.
And then drive it home in this